What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I just wanted to make a really quick video for Modern Warfare, sharing how you can make your game look and sound so much better if you're somebody that's struggling in these areas. Now for some people, you don't need these tips, and these might sound super obvious to you, but I've been seeing so many gameplay clips posted online, whether on like Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, where the game just looks so washed out and so horrible, and this can be really easily fixed with a couple adjustments. Additionally, I have been seeing quite a few people having an issue with the audio in this game, and therefore I'm going to be giving a recommendation for that as well. But first off, let's get into making the game look better. The number one issue that I'm seeing when I look at these gameplay clips is that their game just looks incredibly washed out. It looks absolutely horrible, and I've actually had lots of compliments on my videos saying, how did you get your game to look good? What color correction settings do you use in your video editing software to make it look better? And I don't actually do any color grading at all on my gameplay. This is directly from my capture card. This is what you're seeing. And while it may not look perfect, it is much, much better than I've seen on a lot of these gameplay clips. And all you have to do to get rid of that washed out look is reduce your in-game brightness setting. Now, I know I'm somebody that typically with Call of Duty games, or really a lot of first-person shooters, I will go a little bit above the recommended brightness setting. So that you have that little brightness meter and it's like, oh, this should be just barely visible, this shouldn't be visible. I usually go just a little bit brighter than what it recommends because I find that helps me when I get into dark situations. If I go inside a cave, for instance, then it will help me see my enemies a little bit better. The problem with that in this game is it doesn't seem to scale your contrast accordingly, and therefore you don't actually gain any benefit from this. It just makes your game look washed out, and you don't actually see anybody any easier in dark situations. So a really simple fix to reduce that washed out look is reduce your in-game brightness setting down to where it actually should be. And then from there, if you really want to get picky with it, that's where you make your adjustments on your TV or your monitor settings, because those you have a lot more control over, and you can actually start boosting contrast and you can start boosting other areas to make it look better and also to gain those advantages in those darker situations. So that is the number one tip I wanted to provide in this video. It might seem so silly and so basic, but it seems like this is a really widespread issue, so I did want to share that tip with you guys. Additionally, I've recommended this from the beginning, and I'll just repeat it in this video since we're talking about making the game look better. Turn your film grain off. Set that to 0. When you have film grain on, it reduces the fidelity of the image that you're seeing. You're actually losing information here. Turn your film grain completely off. And on top of that, at the very least, turn your world motion blur off. I also recommend your weapon motion blur. You should turn that off as well. But at the very least, world motion blur should be off, because anytime you rotate your character with that world motion blur on, you're losing valuable information. And in my opinion, the game looks way worse, especially if you look at a still image of the gameplay with the motion blur on. So that pretty much covers it for my quick recommendations for making the game look better. Now let's talk about audio a little bit. I've been seeing quite a few complaints about people that are just saying the audio sounds horrible, they're having a hard time hearing footsteps, and that hasn't been my experience at all with the settings that I'm using. Now, of course, everybody's audio setup is going to be different. I use an Astro A50 headset, for instance, which isn't really top of the line when it comes to sound quality, but it's quite good in that area. You really don't need a high-end headset for this. But if you guys haven't been playing around with the audio settings at all, I highly recommend using Headphones 1. I have played around with every single one of these audio mixes, and by far, Headphones 1 is above the rest. None of the others, aside from TV 1, even come close to the Headphones 1 setting. So if you haven't tried that one yet, give it a go. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised. Now, taking that one step further, though, there are some other fine adjustments I've made that I found have really significantly improved my awareness of what's going on around me in-game due to audio. First up, on my music volume slider, I have cut this all the way back to 40%. There are actually a decent amount of little pieces of music that play when you're actually in the game, and this can take away from the gameplay experience. Although at the same time, I really appreciate the compositions they've made for this, and I do want to hear the music, especially in the menus. That's why instead of turning it right off, I have just cut it back really significantly. So it's still there, but it's not overtaking anything. After that, I also significantly cut back on my dialogue volume. Currently, I'm using a 45 on that, which might seem a little bit extreme because those dialogue cues can be very important in game. When somebody calls in a kill streak, for instance, or it might tell you that the enemy is capturing the B flag, for instance, you do want that information. You do want to get that. But I found when it was on the default maximum value, it was completely overtaking everything else going on around me, especially with how much people are constantly calling in personal UAVs and UAVs. It was just a steady stream of the announcer just talking in my ear. and that was definitely taking away from the gameplay for me. So I cut back on that significantly, and now I think it's in a great spot where I can still get those sound cues, but it doesn't take over any of the gameplay audio. Finally, I also made an adjustment to my effects volume. So the effects volume is going to be like a lot of the sounds you make when you earn a kill streak or you get like a medal that pops up on your screen. And once again, I just feel like those sound cues, while they can be important and it is nice to have them, they were taking over some of the gameplay audio a little bit, and it was pulling me out of the game when it comes to audio immersion. So with this one, I reduced it down to 70 because I still really want to hear those. I just didn't want them to be quite as loud as they were. And with that, this right here is my current perfect audio setting. I have done a lot of tweaking on this to get things just right, just the way I like them. Of course, some of this stuff will be personal preference. Play around with it for yourself. Maybe try copying the settings that I use and just see if that works for you. And then if you realize like, oh, I want the dialogue to be a little louder, then of course, feel free to bump that up a little bit for yourself. But with that, that's going to wrap it up for this pretty quick video to hopefully help you guys make the game look and sound a whole lot better. I'm really interested to know in the comment section below, did this actually help you? Did you find that your game started looking much better when you turned your brightness down a little bit in game? Also, if you guys have different settings that you feel are even better for yourself, then please let me know in the comment section below. Maybe there's a certain combination that I haven't discovered yet that's even better. Just let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.